I'm excited to be here. So one of the things, Lisa, this is for you. One of the things is really to just show up exactly where you are. So this is exactly why I'm asking everybody where they're at. You don't need to come and like pretend to be somewhere that you're not. So it's fantastic that you're bringing exactly what you're feeling. This is so relevant to what we're doing here. Tired and drained and hopeless. Okay, Christina, what's making you hopeless? What's happening in your life that's impacting you so much to the point of hopelessness? I think what I'm going to talk about is really going to touch you deeply. So yeah, anybody's joining us, we're in the chat right now, and we're just writing where everybody's coming from and how everybody's feeling, really honestly and authentically, just what you're feeling. I really love reading your messages. It really gives me a sense to kind of feel you. I'm used to seeing faces, and there are no faces, it's just chat. So it's nice to actually see. I don't see any change in the area of my life, no matter if I did affirmation, positive meditation, prayers, etc. Yeah, is there a trauma in the background, Christina? Also feeling tired of the daily news. Oh yeah, I'm feeling you on that one, Lisa. Sometimes it's really hard to feel everything that's going on in the world, especially as leadership is falling apart and we're seeing so much corruption and, and it's not always easy to digest. It brings up so many emotions for all of us everywhere. I'm not even gonna get started on what's going on in my country. That's a whole other session. So great. So anybody else popping in, again, be sure to type where you're coming from and how you're feeling. We're gonna start in a minute or two. So, okay, so Judy, just to make sure and kind of explain that to everybody, there's Q&A and then there's chat. So in the chat, we write what we're feeling, and I see Judy, you're saying you're overwhelmed, but in the Q&A, we put questions. So it's easy for me to come back to questions if we need to, rather than chitty chatty and look for them, okay? So I'm moving you, Judy, back to chat. Maybe abusive relationship that promised change, and he does not, and I feel powerless and weak myself for allow men to manipulate and go back and forth with my head. Yeah, probably in the somatic imprint, there's something there where you're not usually received. So, all right, I think we're gonna get started. And so my name is Chen Lizra, and I'm broadcasting to you right now from Israel. And I'm going to talk to you today about the wisdom of the body and its ability to heal. I'm going to stop for myself for a minute to chat so I can kind of focus because it's a little distracting. So, I'm going to start actually with a personal story rather than a bio that I think is going to be more relatable. So when I was 11 years old, my mom got mentally sick, and what was really difficult about it was that one day she was taken away to a mental hospital and hospitalized. I mean, in the morning I had a mother, and by nighttime I didn't, and nothing was explained in the middle. And my parents were divorced, and I was living with my mom. And I remember walking for a year with just pain in my heart, just aching for my mom. I just wanted that comfort, and just crying my heart out. And I couldn't talk to her or see her for a year. I had a few phone calls over the year, but that was it. Went from having a mom to no mom. At the age of 11, it was really hard. It was really painful. And that was just one painful thing that happened, but everybody in school knew what was going on because I was living in a small place, and I was made fun of that I'll be crazy like mom who was in a mental hospital. And so I lost all my friends one by one. And 2 friends were left. That's it. And it was so hard what was going on that I needed to talk about it. I needed to share what I was feeling. I needed to unload it. So and my dad was working I moved to live with my dad, and he was working 3 jobs a day. So he wasn't really present emotionally in that sense, constantly there. So I didn't have anybody to talk to. So what I did was talk to the only 2 friends that I had. I needed to unpack it. And when I was I think it was about 13, My mom was already out of the hospital. It was even crazier when she came out, but she wasn't okay. I was waiting for a year to get my mom back. And when she came out, she wasn't okay. It wasn't the old mom that I had. She was treated with electric shock for a year to try and heal her. And I said to that friend, she came to my house, and I said to that friend what was going on. And I was just like, puking it out. And she just got up and she said, I can't take it anymore. I can't hear these stories anymore. And she walked out of me. And that was one pain too many in 2 years, where I just like, I couldn't take it anymore. And what happened was that I shut down, and this mask came on. And I was like this all the time. Oh yeah, great. And I was pretending on the outside like I was doing wonderful. And inside I was in so much pain, just so much pain, this little body with that much pain. And the suicidal thoughts didn't wait long. And then I just wanted to opt out of life. Like I would just wake up in the morning and I would think how I'd want to die. And outside, like A student, looking great, competing, doing stuff. And inside, just like I could not expose my feelings anymore. Like I could not show what was really going on and get hit one more time. And I'm going to fast forward to, and I'm going to show you this. Hold on just one second. Let me share my screen. And I want you to go into the chat and write to me what you see here in this drawing. What are the words that are coming up for you? I have no clue how I'm going to access the chat from here. Let me just check. Oh, here we go. So write for me words. Fear. Yes, exactly. What else? Fear. What else are you seeing there? Worry. Fear. Terrified. Absolutely. Fear. Stress. Loneliness. Yes. Here it is. My death coming to me. Anguish. Yes. Fear and angst. I would add hopelessness. Seen but not seen. Absolutely. So this is a portrait that I drew of myself at 20 years old. Waiting for the next shoe to drop. That's a good one. Terrified and scared. I think that really captures it, Maria. Terrified and scared. I drew this in art school when I was 20 years old. And that was where I was. On the outside, I looked the way I look. And on the inside, that's what was going on. And it took a long time and a really deep journey around the world to look for a way to heal the trauma and to bring down that mask so I can come out and be me. I was for many years really tough. Like when I started showing feelings, it was just like really hard. Like anything that I was just so sensitive that when anything would touch my heart, it was just too much with everything that I've gone. And it took me quite the journey around the world to find what heals such a deep trauma. And I feel really blessed to have gone on this journey because I've gained amazing insights and ability and capacity to heal others over time. You know, it started with healing my trauma, but over time, it's really became tools that allow me to transform people's lives and show them how to get there. And I think that the best way to learn is to learn from someone who's walked the walk, someone who's done it themselves. So I want to share with you some of the things that I've realized over the last 2.5 decades. And I hope that that's going to create a really deep opening for you of how you can take some of these things and heal those places. So I'm going to start with, well, before I'm going to ground you, I'm going to ground you before. So I want to do one little exercise with you to kind of get everybody grounded. Also those who are feeling not so good. And I'm going to jump in because I do a lot of somatic work, somatic coming from the body. I want to make sure that everybody kind of landed a little bit more into their bodies and not up here, the energy in the head. So let me set up the music. All right. And what I want you to do is, first of all, breathe 4 in and 4 out, from the nose in and the mouth out. So we're going to go and out. We're going in and out. In and out. The next thing we're going to do, I want you to imagine an inward cycle. So when we breathe outward cycle, it's like we're coming out of ourselves. We're making it like we're leaving ourselves. When we breathe inward, we breathe around and come down in our core, in our spine, and try to come down all the way to our base, which is the pelvic area. So we're going to breathe in and down and in 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 and really imagine and bring it in as if the energy goes from the head and the chin all the way down to your pelvic area. Imagine coming back home to yourself and staying in your body. As you keep breathing, see if you can also open your heart. And as you open your heart, just see if you can feel what is there. Could be pain, could be sadness, could be shame, could be anger, could be calmness, joy. You might be numb. Whatever is there, just allow it. Let's see how are you feeling right now. Type for me type for me back in the chat, and let's see how are you feeling. That's beautiful, Trevor. Happiness for being grateful. Calmer, good. I say, got you guys so relaxed, you're not writing anything. Surprisingly relaxed. Why surprisingly, Karen? Sadness, good, Lisa. Exactly. It's about getting present to what is there. It's not about changing it. It's about just being there. And breathe into it, Lisa. So allow more, release a little bit. Mellow yellow. Where it's sad, where you're feeling echoing. Where are you feeling echoing? Weird, sad. I didn't understand, Alexa, what you wanted to say. Weird, sad. So when you say weird, sad, that's your brain analyzing it. Your body's saying sad. Your brain is saying, oh, that's weird. Because I'm usually a bit tense from being sick for a really long time. Got it. Aware of the pain in my hip. Good. Good. I'm saying good because your body is communicating with you. So we're starting to notice the wisdom of the body. The body always communicates with us through feelings and sensations. But most of the time we're so much hugged from the inside. I love that, Becca. So most of the time we're so in our heads. We are so much thinking. that we are disconnecting from our bodies, from our feelings, from our sensations. I need to not do these kinds of exercise. They will freeze my breathing. I keep breathing the way I was since I finally got a nice relaxed exhale from taking time off today, and want to keep that for the night. Breathing is not what causes problem. Breathing just makes flow in your body. Whatever it's bringing up is what you're having a hard time being with. So I'm going to come back to what I said. And so the body communicates with us through feelings and sensations. So when it wants to say things to us, it might make us feel like a pain or hard, or we might feel an expansion and lots of air and flow of breathing and so on. That's how the body communicates with us. So I want to talk a little bit about what causes trauma. So trauma is created in the body when we meet difficult emotions for us to process. And that can be, there's a lot of childhood traumas, but that can also be something that happened to us in life where we made a certain choice, or, you know, we had a really bad breakup, or someone died on us, wherever it was. So trauma is created when we feel certain emotions and they're too much for us to feel them and be with them, and we don't know how to process them. And when the emotions become way too big for us to digest, like what I was telling you before about the story with my mom, where there was so much pain and my body was too small, my nervous system could not contain that. We shut down areas automatically to protect our nervous system. We don't do this thinking about it, we do it unconsciously. And it's actually quite a smart mechanism inside of the body, because it prevents from the nervous system to crash. And that's really important. So, you know, when I work with executive clients, and I hear their stories, their trauma stories, that I'm working with them in order to release those blocks and those traumas that are impacting their peak performance. You see a lot of the times that there was, for example, a sibling, and one sibling, who's successful, but carrying something that's blocking them in an area of their lives, did okay because they were able to shut down that area. But another sibling, for example, went crazy, killed themselves, something that they couldn't handle it in whatever way, and they went somewhere else with it. So a lot of the times when we have feelings that we cannot be with and we don't know how to process them, you know, as adults, if we don't shut down that area, we run to really unhealthy habits. And that could be drugs, that can be alcohol, that can be emotional eating, that can be sex, that can be any excessive shopping, anything that we can do to try and numb so we don't have to feel it. Now, I want to give you a little example of how trauma is not created. So I don't know how many of you know Steve Irwin, the crocodile Dal in Australia, but I think his kids are a great example. So he died in a freak accident that wasn't expected, and he was nothing that was really dangerous. And his wife Terry and his two kids, Bindi and Robert, had to deal with intense grief of someone who is a world icon, who is just sensational, so inspirational as a person. And you know, I kind of looked at that really deeply, and it was really interesting. Terry went, and I saw a lot of interviews she did. She went and got help to understand how to process grief. And what she created was a container for her kids to have a room to feel the grief and to feel it with them. One, she needed space for herself as a mom because she was grieving so hard, and to be able to hold space for them. So they were grieving together. If you look at them, they don't have a trauma. They have pain that they carry. They have grief that they express over the years, but they don't carry a trauma. They didn't get broken by it. On the other hand, when these emotions come up and we don't have that unconditional space of someone feeling these feelings with us, that's what we need. We need someone feeling with us the feelings so that we feel them feeling us. When we get that opportunity, a trauma is not formed. And that's really important. So I want to stop for a second and see if you have any questions up to here before I go on, because this is really important that you get it. So let's check the Q&A and see what's going on. So yeah, if you have any questions about this as I talk, feel free to pop in the Q&A. Q&A is different than the chat. So in the chat, we're chatting. And the Q&A, we can post questions. And then I can stop at certain times and see if there are any important questions to answer. So feel free to write them as I speak. All right, so we're doing good for now. No big questions, or you didn't know you were supposed to write them. So you're invited. All right, so. Another thing I want to say about hiding what goes on inside, and I'm going to take it for a minute to, so Ken, can you post the questions in the Q&A and not in the chat so that we can come back to it? Because the chat is going to run, I'm not going to see them, but in the Q&A, I will definitely see that. I'll come back to it in a second to see the questions. So, all right, so I want to give you another example of how the body manifests and how connected the body is to what is going on with us emotionally. The body is so smart. It's so wise. So I'm just writing a little note for something that I want to say to you afterwards. So I don't know if you know this, but this is actually, there have been studies done on this, but Holocaust survivors that came out of the Holocaust, some of them spoke about what happened to them, and some of them, the pain was so great that they could not talk about what was going on. They just could not. Like my uncle, one of my uncles who's not alive anymore, he was in the Holocaust, and when I was 7 or 8, we had a project in school, and I came like, you know, not even understanding what I was asking. I was like, oh, you know, I heard about the Holocaust and what happened. I mean, he choked, like, he couldn't even speak. And years later, I found out that he never spoke about it. And what is really interesting is that a lot of the people that took the path because they could not process what happened to them there ended up with cancer. And by the way, he died of cancer. So for a lot of them, that manifested in the body. These emotions that didn't get processed got manifested into some kind of illness. And we see this when the body communicates with us in a certain way, and he says something, and we don't pay attention to it, and then we suddenly get sick, or we get some kind of a symptom. And then if we don't listen to it, it escalates. And you go like, I don't understand what is going on in my life. What is going on is emotional getting expressed through the body, because the body is speaking to you through emotions and sensations. And you need to understand how the body communicates with you, and then what to do with it, obviously. Okay, so I see that we've got some questions. Let me stop for a second and see how you guys are doing and what questions are coming up. Is it necessary to have another person to witness your pain so it doesn't move to trauma? How does the containment relieve the trauma? Great. So I'm going to explain about the witnessing in a minute. And I'm going to say something about the first question, which is, does there need to be another person? So if we cannot process the emotions by ourselves, yes, we need someone to witness us. When we need, and I'll explain in a minute what witnessing is. When we get witnessed, it can be by a professional, like, you know, I know how to witness people because I got trained, but it can also be someone who has this emotional capacity. My grandma was like that. And I feel very grateful. I think that part of why I'm alive today is because I had a person like her, that even though she wasn't there every day, like a parent could, there was a light at the end of the tunnel because someone felt me and someone loved me unconditionally and gave me a full space to come and dump that at certain times and to be felt. And she always saw in me the way I am today. And I was a mess for years. I was just such a mess. It took me 25 years to get to where I am today and to realize all these things and to create what I call, you know, an executive resilience. Like, how do we get to the point where our base and our core is so solid? So one of the things that I did with you at the beginning and why I started with a somatic practice is because I started moving and shifting your energy from here, which is where we spend, especially during traumas, right here, but also just life today. And I started moving all of your energy to your base. And when we bring the energy into the base and we can be in the pelvic area, it grounds us. It taps us into incredible trust in life and gives us this unshakable core. But many of you, if you have trauma, are not able to go down to the base because your base is hurt. And that's part of healing that. So it doesn't have to be a professional. If you can process emotions by yourself, you don't need to be felt by someone. But if you cannot, you do need to be felt by someone to be able to help you work through that to be felt. But that has to be an unconditional space of acceptance and no judgment. and really allow you to be where you are, which is why we start at the beginning. Everything is tailored here. At the beginning with how you're feeling and to chat, to kind of see, you know, what's coming up for you. It's not about showing up to some act with the mask on and trying to pretend. It's about you really showing up with what you're really feeling and then being met there. And that's the beginning of that, to learn that it is safe. And safe is such an important word here because we are not able to tap into these places if it's not safe enough for us to go there. And what do I mean by that? When I work as a transformational coach, in order to witness people, I connect my nervous system to theirs. And I can feel what is going on in their body. I can be right now on Zoom and I can be with somebody who's on the other side of the world and I can feel what is going on in their body, the pain, the excitement, the contraction. Like if they start to have a hard time breathing, I'll feel like I can't breathe. And as I do that, I've been trained to hold that space. So as they kind of unload those emotions and they allow them to come out, I hold that space for them so that they feel being held. And I can feel in them things that they don't feel in themselves. So in those areas that we shut down, where we have somatic blocks, they prevent us from the things that we want in life. So if you look at your life, you'll see areas that are constricted, like maybe you're not getting the results in love or in your career or wherever it is. Those areas that are blocked because an area in you is blocked and you're not in your true nature, in your true essence. So when we're able to unlock that, those areas become available to you. I'm working right now with a really amazing woman. She's a businesswoman. And she went through such trauma in her childhood and she's done well in life, but not in a certain area in her life, which is relationships. And I've taken her in the last couple of months through this deep journey of healing her nervous system, doing a correction to her nervous system. And you can really feel how she's healing. And it's like, suddenly like things are really shifting and you see the results in her life. She was in a relationship, but it was kind of rocky and she was engaged and they broke up. And now she's at the point, she's like, that's the man I want to be with. She came back to the relationship. She announced it, like something shifted on such a deep level. It's just like, it moves me. It really moves me personally. Before I'm going to look, I see that you have some questions there, but before I'm going to go there, I want to say about the witnessing. So when we allow the person to come up with their emotions and they're being held completely and they feel safe, and I can feel areas where they're shut down and I can take them gradually in a very safe space, to deepen little by little. We don't do it, boom. We don't overwhelm the body. We listen to what the body allows. The body is so smart. It was smart enough to shut down an area to protect you. It's also smart enough to know when it can trust, and trust is built little by little. It's not just opening the door. There's a good reason where there's a protection in your body. You can't just lift it up. You have to gradually build that trust with the body and show it is now safe. Things have changed. And to see what is underneath that needs healing for you to be able to lift the protection that you put there. So we gradually deepen into there. And when we can really land into these places that are really so vulnerable and we can spend time and we're felt, the body knows how to discharge. So that client that I told you specifically, her body went into almost like a washing machine spin of just spitting, after about a session or two, spitting emotions. Like it was like we had to do 2 sessions a week of specifically for her. That doesn't necessarily happen in with each client, but specifically for her body, she held so much for so many years that her body needed to spit it all. And it was so scary to be there by herself that I would just be with her twice a week and help her process. After about 10 sessions, she calmed down completely. And then she was like, wow, I've got air. My chest is open now. Like I've never been able to breathe like that. There was this load that came off her body. We didn't heal all of it, but the big chunk, the first chunk was already processed. And then we went into like the deeper layers or more that were underneath that. And she was like, she did another 10 sessions and now she's coming back in September to do another 10. She was like, when she started realizing what's possible for her in her life. And I want to say that if you want to see a demo of this, of how that works, I have a group on Facebook called The Wisdom of the Sabrasura. I did a session for one of the members who was incredible and agreed for me to do it in front of everyone. And I gave him a free session. And what happened in the group after that was just incredible, because seeing the transformation, experiencing what that's like, that's going to open up your eyes. So feel free to come and join us in a group and check this out. I want to stop for a minute and see what the questions are, because I see questions are popping, so I stay with you. So I'm reading this. So how do we reopen the closed off parts if we are unaware as to what is still blocked? I'm textbook early childhood trauma, sexual abuse. As far as my body pucking out what I do not still know, I am so over the chronic pain, continually adding diagnosis, body destroying itself in so many different ways. So here's what I want to say, Becca. So let me back up. The trauma is normally stored in the body in two different ways: cognitively and somatically. So just to explain to you about my trauma, I worked on that trauma for 10 years. And most of the stuff I did was more cognitive, going to therapy and doing these things. And it was like, there was a point where my mind was fine. What was there was healed. And just to give you an example, there was a point where I went through deep therapy for a long time. And what I revealed was that there was a belief that got stuck as a child, where I couldn't believe that I could go through something so crazy and that I would be normal. So I was sure that I was rotten. And rotten, I discovered later on, textbook classic, as you call it, is when you're stuck, your nervous system is stuck for a very long time in a situation that you can't get out of. And I couldn't get out of it because that was apparent. So you can't get out, and it's unhealthy for you, and you want to get out and you can't. Over time, there's this rotten feeling that comes up in the body. So I was feeling sick in my own body. I was so displaced for myself. And I was so uncomfortable that I was talking too fast. I was super hyperactive. And that's a sign of trauma usually, when someone talking fast, because they can't slow down to their emotions. So when I released that, there was a point where I screamed, and I was freaking out when it came out, because I was so sure it was the truth, that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get exposed. And that just released from the body. Cognitively, I got to a good place, but somatically, my body still wasn't okay. And I had to find a way to also heal my body. And that's what took me on a really interesting journey around the world, to kind of look for answers. And I want to add, before I'm going to look at the other questions, I'm going to add in here something else that I want you to see. So beyond doing the witnessing, I also work with the 5 elements of somatic intelligence, which is something that I extracted out of Cuba. So I've been flying back and forth to Cuba for the last 15 years and spending between 2 to 4 months a year in Cuba. And Cuba is a really interesting place to go, because while we in the world went towards all the material things, in Cuba, they got locked in where there were no material things. They were locked in the country. They couldn't leave. And then everything was more emotional. So their emotional intelligence got stuck in the 50s, 60s, like what we had then, which was a lot better than what we have today. They were a lot more present, and they evolved it. They went inward to look for happiness when we went outward for things. So as I was investigating why there was something so magical, and I'm a dancer, I'm a professional dancer, and I had an academy. So I was training in dance. And as I was training and they were taking me through these journeys, I was going through, now I know, releasing some of those emotions out. But there was something magical that was happening to my body that I couldn't even explain. And I started investigating what was in Cuba that over time healed my body. And then I extracted those elements. And I'm not going to talk about all of them because we don't have enough time to talk about everything, but I do want to show you what the Sabrosura is. So hold on just one second. Hold on. I'm going to show you a video. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so let me first show you the Sabasura and then I'll explain. So to quickly explain, this Sabasura is the centrality inside of our bodies linked and connected to motherly love that sits on physical self-love. So to be able to get and to tap into it, it's something that's a very deep journey of going into the most vulnerable and softer place inside us. And to be able to go through that and to tap into that. And when we have trauma, we become stiff, we become hard. It's hard for us to show that vulnerability and tap into it. So for me, when I work on trauma, I work on both. I work both on the cognitive and I work on the feelings and processing, and I work on the body. And this is just one element out of 5. So Sabasura is super important for healing trauma. So there was a client once that I came to work with me, and when she was talking, I could feel like her mother didn't want to have children, and her father said that if she will not, he would leave her. So she had her, but she didn't want her. So she felt so rejected that she never got the motherly love that she needed. So her body was so deprived of Sabasura. She was almost like needed it so much. So when I started working with her body, she just started bawling, just crying. It wasn't even bawling. It was just like tears. And she was like, what is this? What am I feeling? I said, you're feeling physical love, like your self-love. And she just started crying. She was like, am I ever going to feel it again? And it was wow. It was like, and I just said to her, yes, it's inside your body. I'm not giving it to you. I'm just showing you how to tap into it because your mom didn't show you. And you could see this like light in her eyes. She was crying, but she was like with this new hope. So we have to touch the Sabasura as well and bring it back as well as the other elements to come back to a really healthy place. We've got about 5 minutes left. So I want to be mindful of time. I'm going to pop into questions in a minute and see if I have more time. Before I go into the questions, I want to say 2 more things. 1, for those of you that want to learn your emotional resilience and all these things about how to work with your body and how to tap into it and how to heal your trauma, I'm running a beautiful challenge, the Executive Resilience Challenge, this coming Monday, and it's free. Inside of the group, I'll pop for you a quick link. Be sure to open it because once the Zoom window will close, it will disappear. It's also in my profile. So feel free to join it. I'm going to be teaching you a lot of these things, but how to do it, not just talking about it here today. We only have so much that we can do. So it's in your chat. Feel free to join. And I'll be teaching you how the body communicates. You're going to be doing exercises. I'm going to show you what to do with trauma. We're going to start working on these things. So for 4 days, you got me from morning till night with my team. And we just want to really start the transformation for those that want to heal. So feel free to join that. It's not there for everyone. What's not there for everyone? The link is there for everyone. No? You're not seeing it? I don't see it. Ooh. Oh, I think it needs to go to all participants and attendees. Hold on. I sent it only to hold on. Let me just try this again. And now, is it working? Can you see it now? Just go, yes, 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 yes. Yay, we did it. So yeah, feel free to join because I'm going to be, yay, I'm so happy. So feel free to join because I'm really going to be with you for 4 days and teaching you how to do these things. And, I only do this about once a year. So take advantage of it. I want to pop in a minute in the Q&A. I see there, and also all the questions that I didn't answer, feel free to join the group, the Facebook group, and post all of them. I promise anything, just write that it came from Guidely, and I'll make sure to answer them right away in the next 24 hours. So you get all your questions answered, so feel free. And let me quickly see if I can answer one or two more. Can the trauma pass through the womb? A family passed who experienced the Holocaust. Okay, so first of all, there are two different things. Trauma can be passed through the womb if the mother was in a traumatic state as she was having the baby. So for example, if a mother who's an addict or going through trauma, and her emotions, the baby can feel everything that the mother is feeling. So that can be transferred. And the second thing is we have a somatic imprint in us. So when for example, if you have somebody who's in the Holocaust, they transferred onto you certain things in the somatic imprint that they might not have meant to. Think of kids and how they are. Oh yeah, I'm going to type for you here because someone's asking wisdom. Whoopsie, the name of the group, Wisdom of the Sabrosura. That's the name of the group on Facebook. And you can also find a link in my profile on Guidely. It's also there. So we have a somatic imprint, and that somatic imprint is transferred to us. So think of how kids learn. They learn somatically through the body, right? They copy what they see. They don't talk about it. At the beginning, they're only somatic. And the parents understand when they cry, they mean this one. So we understand everything somatically. So we also take into ourselves somatic things, whether we like it or not, because we're feeling them, and we put certain blocks on ourselves. So part of the work that I do is to kind of uncover your somatic imprint and feel into that and see what came down through the generations through you. So we're really close to an end. I know you have other questions, but please post them for me in the Wisdom of the Sabrosura, and I promise to answer all of them. My mother was murdered at my birth. I was the only one who survived out of 4. Yeah, Alexa, so that's a very deep imprint of unsafety in your somatic imprint. You probably have a lot of issues with lack of safety and trust, and that can be healed, by the way. Exactly. So before we finish, I want to know how you guys are doing and how you feel about how the session made you feel. Did you get value from this? Are you taking away stuff? Have you learned stuff? How are you doing there? Let me know in the chat. Curious. Awesome, Cheryl. You're welcome, Lisa. Wonderful. The other Lisa. That's the whole point. Yes, exactly. I'm here to help you heal this. Yes, you can, Chama. You definitely can. Come and join us for the challenge. I'll show you how. Wonderful. I'm so glad to hear. Terrified, yet learned and felt heard. That's wonderful, Becca. That's good. Yeah, I'm in. Awesome. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm so glad. The motherly touches of Sabrosura was really toughing. What do you mean by that, Maria? What do you mean by toughing? So I'm so glad. Oh, touching. That makes a lot more sense. Yes, it is very touching. Yeah, it goes so deep on such a deep level. So I'm really glad you enjoyed this. We got to wrap it right here because we got to close the session so you can move on to the next sessions. I'll see you in the challenge in the Wisdom of the Sabrosura, and let's heal those traumas. All right? Lots of love, guys. Bye. You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye, everyone.